Hi there, and welcome to this exciting episode of Guidetryb's podcast. And this is quite exciting. The topic is PhD versus a tech job. I have the pleasure of discussing with Joshua Mokut. Shake my hand, shake my hand. He's a superstar. Now, why I think this conversation is interesting is because we have very similar starting points. We both did quite well in high school, I think. Although I think he was more of a superstar than I was. He represented Nigeria, won cowbell competitions, and I think got as far as the IMO, right? I also did cowbell, did some other competitions, and then um, internationally we went to South Africa for the ESCOM Science Expo. So great stuff by God's grace. And then we both went to Russia on the FSB scholarship, and we were both students in a city called Kazan. He studied in KFU, he studied mathematics, and I studied engineering in the Power Engineering University. And then we both worked for Yandex. Yandex is a tech company in Russia. I was there as a project manager. He was there as a software developer. We both relocated to London. Okay, a few weeks apart from each other. It was not planned. It was very surprising when he told me he was going.
Yeah, I told you I was moving to London, and you were
I said,
like,
when? He said May or so, and I was moving in April. So it was just amazing. So we both came to London. In fact, we almost stayed in the same house. We were planning to rent a place.
You remember
together.
at the airport when everyone was telling you goodbye, and I was like, "See you
See you
soon."
soon. Right. You follow me to see me off in the airport. Wonderful stuff. I think we showed the pictures.
Yeah.
So, but then we had two unique paths. I came for a PhD. He came for a tech job. So for people who are about to graduate or who have graduated and are thinking of which pathway to take, I think this conversation is going to help to give color to that. Okay, so there are 6 or 7 points based on which we'll discuss. The first one is ease of entry. Ease of entry. How easy was it for you to get into your tech job at Google? And then I'll talk about how easy it was for me to get the PhD at Imperial College.
How easy was it for me in particular, or how easy is it in general?
Both.
So how easy was it for me? Because of my background, which was basically like the competitions, ICPC and the rest of them. I participated in competitions that some of these tech companies were monitoring already, and that was the path to. I think that was the path to Yandex. The path to Google was a bit more nuanced, so I think it was a mixture of that plus also applying for an internship prior. 2019, I tried to apply for an internship in Google, and I didn't get in, but they did give very useful feedback, which was you don't have a lot of projects on your CV. You know, you generally doing well in the interviews, but you don't have a lot of projects on your CV. And so I went looking for a job, which was a part-time job I did while I was doing applied mathematics. So I think that based on all that, the competitions, the part-time job, by the time I had finished uni, it was very good timing, fairly easy. Yeah. Personally, I didn't have to do any applications. Both companies reached out to me. A recruiter reached out, and so it was more of my hands were held and walked through the door. And
amazing.
It was fairly easy because pretty much for the past 3-4 years I'd been preparing.
You've been lifting the weight in the the weight in the gym mentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just for 3 to 4 years, I believe for at least 10 years.
A while back,
all the preparations for Olympiads were preparations for software development, essentially. So that was good. But there was a time you said when you were preparing for ICPC, you could spend up to 10 or 12 hours a day.
Yeah, we did that. We were pretty much just solving algorithmic problems every day, and
they had no life, no social life,
none whatsoever. And these were the questions that came in the interviews for Google and Yandex.
So by the time the interview was just another session of preparing for,
and it was a much easier session. So
can you imagine that under less pressure? So
we those of us that did ICPC, we did not even have to prepare for those interviews. I mean, we might do it for the sake of to fulfill our righteousness, but
so how difficult would this be for the average person who wants to get into software development? And presumably somebody who has some background in engineering or mathematics or computer science.
You mean the interviews in particular?
Yes.
With a little preparation, I think it would be fairly easy. not if on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very easy and 1 being very hard. If for me that was a 5 or a 4 point something, I think for the average person it should come down to like maybe a 3
Mhm.
there. But it still will be
It all
difficult
depends. Yeah,
because there will be there has to be intentionality towards
yeah.
solving these problems on lead code and the rest of
Hmm.
them. But in general, it's doable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. For me, ease of entry. Um, a friend recommended um, the idea of a PhD at Imperial, and then I went to just Google search PhD at Imperial, and then I saw that there's a scholarship search tool that you can use. So I find scholarships, and then I found one,
Mm.
and I applied.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my supervisor said he received 100 applications, and he interviewed 5 candidates
Mm.
and selected 2 or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a 2% chance to get in.
Mm.
Wow.
I was surprised when I applied. I didn't hear from them, and I was not surprised that I didn't hear from them. In fact, I thought they were going to see my CV and just hiss and throw it away. I felt I was not.
Why did you
I
think that at the
imagined there were
time?
some really brilliant guys from Asia, India, and China and Korea who were also applying for the.
Brilliant, as in they've done amazing things in
Yeah,
their masters, some
yeah,
really
yeah.
groundbreaking research.
My master's was really good, by the way.
Mm.
I underestimated it until I began to talk to some other people, and I think
Mm.
I had a very complicated topic.
Mm.
I designed and modeled a bidirectional electric vehicle battery charger. So
Mm.
mathematical analysis, simulation, verification, and then building the hardware itself. So there was power electronics from the conceptual level
How
down to
did you
building
manage
hardware.
to underestimate that?
Because there was a lot of imposter syndrome. It was quite difficult, but I think that's what helped me.
Mm.
And the good thing was that I found a professor who has a background in power electronics
Right.
and who was thinking of pivoting somehow into power systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just me. I also had a background in power electronics, but after my master's, I felt I didn't want to work at the device level.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be at the system level. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a match made in heaven, like they say. So I would
Blessed.
say it was easy, not too difficult, but again, all the years behind me have been preparing me for it, just
Yep.
like him.
Yep.
Oh, time is running. And point number 2, day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
Day-to-day life. What does it look like? You have 90 seconds to answer.
90 seconds. Okay. Day to day life, a day in the life of a Googler. We actually don't do any work. I'm kidding.
I've visited his office. It's all chilling. They have gyms and they have lots of chocolates and sweets.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's all
God,
we do all day.
it's a Disneyland for adults.
Well, day to day for me is so I'm in the office from 9 to 4, but I'm working with almost minimal break, and that's just a me style. Different people work differently. Some people might prefer longer, but take more breaks and stuff. We're writing code, we're reviewing code, and the biggest part of our day is we're actually figuring out what code to write. So we make this joke at the office, but our work is 90% investigation. You 90% you're going through the code base. You're trying to understand how this connects to that and why is this function calling this other thing? Why is this class working this way?
Who writes the code for you to do this analysis on?
It's code that we have written ourselves.
Among yourselves.
We wrote it among ourselves, and then we need to change something. But to figure out what to change, the change might be a one line.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
one line
yeah,
change. But to figure out that one
everything is
line,
connected to everything else,
yep,
so you have to be careful.
yep.
Hmm.
You have to be able
What's
to.
the coolest project you've worked on? I think you worked on okay, well, I don't know, probably on the NDA.
The coolest project I've worked on that I can talk about is. Can I talk about it?
He's worked on really cool stuff. Amazing stuff. I mean, Google in London.
I can say this. We've worked on, so initially Android was a phone first operating system for small phones, for small screens. And
Yeah.
we've worked on a lot of projects to extend that from just small screens to much larger screens. So now you have foldable devices, foldable Android devices like Samsung Fold. You have tablets, and eventually we're planning to expand like that ecosystem. So
And it's not just a simple thing, right? To change the code that was made for a small screen to fit into a larger screen.
guess what the hardest part of that
What's
is?
the hardest one?
Performance.
Performance. What does that mean?
Yes, the code, when you're displaying stuff on a larger screen, you're taking up more GPU, more CPU, you're using more memory resources and more compute resources. And so while our code initially was built for small screen, it was performance. But when you take it to a bigger screen,
And that was the biggest thing.
you start noticing that, oh, your Android phone is lagging.
Yeah,
It's slowing down. That is,
how do you solve that?
we basically have to go back and rewrite the code differently. We have to go back and think about the infrastructure, or the hardware has to catch up. But one of the two things has to happen.
Amazing, you guys are rock stars.
Oh,
Day-to-day life for me, wow.
yeah.
So a PhD is a very, very independent journey.
Mm.
So you basically are not required to come at any time and leave at any time. I used to spend most of my day in the university, and there will be team meetings. I meet with my supervisor maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks, depending on the stage of my work or what's going on. If we have a paper coming up to prepare, then once a week. Then there's also a meeting within the larger research team that's once a month. Apart from that, I'm also required to provide GTA services. I'll be a graduate teaching assistant. That's teaching, taking tutorials or taking lab sessions or marking or doing supervision for masters and undergrad students. That's paid work, by the way. It's they pay me per hour for that. So those are the things that are fixed, and the rest of it is just you working on your own. And some people like that, some people don't like that. I think I like it to an extent.
You prefer to an extent. The
Yeah.
other extent, I guess, is collaborating with people.
Yeah, you have to, because what you're trying to solve a very difficult problem. Trying to create a solution.
To a problem.
You're not applying a formula.
And it's not a solution that has existed before. It's an absolutely new one.
If it existed before, it's not a PhD.
Yeah.
So it can be really lonely. I had to read a paper from 1918. Okay, there was this paper published by somebody called Fortescue in the year 1918.
Wow.
I think he published it on June 28th or June 29th, 1918, the day before my birthday. Right? I mean, the day and the month, not the year. And I had to go read that paper because I'm thinking of how to apply his line of thinking, which was for synchronous generators, how to apply them to inverters and solar panels and things like that. Wow. So it's like reading Shakespeare. You know, it's English, but it's difficult English.
But it's English, but not quite.
So that's part of it that it can be. You can just be banging your head. Feel like you're banging your head against the wall. But that's the effort it takes to come out. Now, the end result of a good PhD, according to my supervisor, is going to be simple. To the extent that you may be disappointed that that's what you produce with your PhD. Right? So if at the end of a PhD you have something that's very complicated, then you probably did not really do a good work, because the idea is to get into something that looks difficult and make it so simple that somebody will say, wow, I never thought. So Newton's laws, we learn them in a few minutes, right? In high school physics. But the amount of thinking and rigorous analysis that went into providing those simple formulas was a lot. It could take years of thinking and years of testing and experimenting, and the final output can be a simple formula. And the simpler it is, the more the thinking I had to go into it. And you can't think in a group. If you want to really think deeply, it has to be unique. So,
one question though. Yep. Earlier you said you have to collaborate occasionally, like you have to collaborate. Who do you typically collaborate? Is that with other professors, or is that with other
So PhD typically students? You have a professor that is very busy with many other things. And very often you have a postdoc working with the professor. And that postdoc can serve as a co-supervisor. It's more accessible to you. So you can ask him the silly questions. You don't want to ask your supervisor the silly questions because he'll be disappointed. So you ask a postdoc. And then there could be some other colleagues that are just more experienced. I have someone who's, I think, is only a year behind me, but he worked in the industry for 7 years before coming. He worked with Rolls-Royce, and he worked with Red Bull, I think. Or is it Lamborghini? He worked in their R&D, So he has extensive experience. So he teaches me a lot of things. So you can learn from individuals, you can learn from postdocs, you can learn from supervisors. Or you can have Zoom calls with people across the ocean. Sometimes I do that because I'm working in a field where there seems to be more expertise in Canada than here. We have to run through the rest. Number 3, remuneration. Remuneration without giving
too much detail.
Yeah. I do think I'm not on a salary at the moment. I'm still on a stipend, so you can't even compare, right? But the thing is, so apart from my stipend, which is a certain amount that increases every year, I provide GTA services, like I said,
which is paid by the hour.
Okay. So in a good month, I may see one 1K, 1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
On a bad month, 800,
Mm-hmm.
700
Mm-hmm.
on top.
On top of the
Yes.
stipends.
And then I think as a student, you also have a lot of subsidy on lunch and many things like that. So I have traveled quite a bit for conferences, and it's usually all expense paid.
That's fantastic.
So if I had a huge salary, I usually think, what would I have been doing with the extra money? Probably traveling.
Good question.
And I'm able to do the same thing, but not with my own money.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. Just that outside of that sphere of things, there's not um, much credit to spend on wallowing away.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. No, I remember being a student. Remember the 2000 stipends in university, 2000 rubles.
The monthly,
Yeah, the monthly.
that's for toiletries. It's for toiletries and
if you can manage to use it for transport and
Yeah.
then you maybe eat for a week.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, like you said, it's like it's much different in the tech, like with a tech job. Without giving too much details, um, I mean, I would say that the average salary for a software engineer in the UK is probably somewhere around 60, 70.
Is that before taxes or after taxes?
That's before taxes. But also,
is that average or median?
I think that's average, not median actually. So the median might be slightly higher than that. But also, Google is one of the best paid tech companies in the world, and so I guess you would expect like any engineer at Google earning at least 100,000 in a year, and so you just have a bit more money to, if you're very prudent with spending.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
cost of living in London is also
yeah, it's quite high.
something.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so
quite
there's
decent.
I would say you guys are living a good life.
Yeah.
Job security.
Job security, the big one. In tech,
Mhm.
before
in today's tech.
in today's tech, because yeah, 2 years ago tech was a bit different,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of job security. Most people would stay at tech companies for 10, 15 years and able to retire early easily. In today's tech, there is a certain amount of job security, but it requires each individual to grow and learn very fast, very quickly with the times. So adapting to, say, using different
I saw a
tools.
post by somebody who was really high up in Google Chrome. I think she championed many of the major projects, and she was laid off just because the priorities of the company had changed, right? Not because of any fault of hers. So I was talking about this really good, competent lady in Google Chrome that had to be let go because you talked about growing personally. So it seems like beyond personal growth, there's just also the thing of being useful to the company based on their priorities, which can change and which you hardly have a say about. So what does that do to your job security?
It definitely does reduce job security. I mean, generally, job security right now in tech is less than it typically used to be. So, like I said, company priorities. At Google, at most of last year we had tons of layoffs. All the big companies, FANG, Meta, everyone was laying off, and so this would typically happen when they're switching. They want to change to AI, change to focus on AI, and then it's not, at least in my experience, it's quite rare that a division is being replaced by AI. It's more that this division we're retargeted, like we have money budget for this division and we want to shift that to focusing on investing in AI. That's what I've seen really happen.
So nobody really knows what can happen in any case.
No, we do not.
Unfortunately.
We do not. Yeah.
Oh, job security for me after my PhD. It depends on the kind of job I decide to go for. An academic job, I think, is basically very secure. There is no news yet of AI lecturers displacing human lecturers. So I think if I decide to go along that pathway, and it's very competitive, by the way, to get an academic position, but if it got, typically it's almost a lifetime position unless something horrible happens.
Yeah, you
If you
said
go to
something
if you go
about.
to industry, it could be different
Mhm.
because industry also has projects, timelines, budgets. So you can be the guy I told you that was from the industry. He recommends that you spend not more than 2 to 3 years in a particular company. Yeah.
Really?
Now, after some point, you get to
What's
a
the
point where
thinking?
you can't really grow.
Right,
There will be no challenge anymore. You get used to the task.
right.
So I think he worked with companies like GE, really great companies. I don't know. I think maybe that's his experience, but there's that. But typically there's more money and industrial positions, especially in my field. My God, there's so many nowadays. Many energy consultancy companies. Okay, that's consulting anyway, not
Mhm.
industrial. Well, and then there's also that. So
I think
I
there's
think it will depend on where I choose to go.
Yeah, I think there's always that factor of after a while that a job becomes more
Yeah,
routine, and especially for younger people. Now, while I'm no authority on this, but I do think there is some for the younger people. There's some wisdom in if say they're in tech. There is some wisdom in moving to a different team or a different job that has a different set of
every now and
technologies,
then.
and then it
Yes.
allows for but also of course if they decide to drill down and become specialists at one thing,
Yeah.
it's great up until AI tries to replace that
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. So there's also you have to be a specialist at least one thing, but then
Yeah, a
you should be
generalist.
robust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is that research in the industry, industrial research belongs to the industry.
Mm,
Academic research belongs to the researcher. So if you do research in
mm,
academia, it's your research.
right.
Right? You get funding and you can consider yourself when you get funding, you consider that okay, you've received an investment for your startup. Your startup is made up of you,
Yeah,
your postdocs, your PhD students, your master students, and then you decide how to.
span that.
Yes,
Yeah.
your research area, your research
Right.
interest is yours to decide.
Right.
In industry, they have what they want to do. They hire you to work on research for them. You don't own the intellectual property.
Mm,
So should you stumble across something really great, you help the company, they pay you peanuts compared to what you could get if you own it by yourself. But they also give you resources
it's an
that you
interesting
probably will
also.
not have by yourself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it depends on what you want. And number five, AI. We've touched on it a little bit, how AI is disrupting your space and how much you have to worry about it versus not versus or how much you have to adopt it to change your daily life.
I mean,
Much in every way for you, I think.
sir.
It's a lot in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Yeah.
I do some programming and my and chat GPT
Mm.
is so awesome. Bugs that would have taken me several days to fix before because I write code on MATLAB as well.
Yeah.
ChatGPT now does it in minutes.
Yeah.
Of course, like I said, ChatGPT cannot solve engineering problems. You tell it to solve problems and it just hallucinates for you.
Hallucinations.
And if you
Right.
don't have basic background and knowledge, then you fall for that.
Yeah.
But it has really helped me. So I can only imagine that for someone like you, it would have changed your life
It's a game
dramatically.
changer. Definitely, it's definitely a game changer. So, with the job at Google, we have it doing all these engineering tasks that we typically as engineers try to not that we try to avoid them, but they're not the most exciting part of. That's not why we became software engineers. For example, we did not become software engineers to specifically because we loved writing documentation or because we liked reviewing code. We became software engineers because we like coding.
Mm.
And so it does allow, in many ways, it allows for AI to do AI does all the smaller things and then we can focus on the main part. But also for the coding itself, like you said, AI is becoming pretty good at it. We have specialized AIs for, we talked about Lovable earlier, right? There's Lovable, there's Cursor, which allows you to write raw code. It's an IDE with AI infused. And I've been able, for example, personally, just in personal life, I've been able to write, um, a whole code base on a programming language that I didn't know. I've never learned it before.
And you did that within a few hours, I suppose.
I did that within a couple days. I was able to create a rather massive code base. Within a few hours, you can definitely get a working product,
Yeah.
and that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's AI definitely is a game changer, and I think that it's something that every software engineer wants to adopt.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise you get left behind. It makes everyone
Time.
tax. Yes.
For me, yeah, I think AI has helped with, we write papers on a software called LaTeX, and
Oh,
drawing
that's
tables on LaTeX can be such a pain. With Excel, you just merge cells and then
yeah,
you know, align the text however you want
yeah,
it, and you just select colors. With LaTeX, it's such a pain
yeah.
because you have to find out how to do it specifically. But find out what you want to do, then go Google search it and then look for examples on Stack Overflow. And then, oh my God, you can spend a couple of hours trying to do it.
Yeah. I guess
Guidetryb does it in a few seconds. Yes. So you just do the table on Excel, screenshot the table, then go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT for the LaTeX code.
Yeah.
To produce that exact table. In fact, the first time I did it, I made a mistake in the table. ChatGPT helped me to correct the mistake.
I was like, are you sure this is what you wanted?
You probably want this. I said, wow, how did you know? I had been on that thing for 2 or 3 hours. Wow. And one postdoc walked in and said, what are you doing? Put this on ChatGPT. I said, are you sure ChatGPT can do this? He looked at me like I was crazy. I put it on ChatGPT and it came out in minutes. I was so embarrassed. So ChatGPT has helped with things like that, Again, that's not the core of my work, right? Coding a particular table on LaTeX is not.
But you probably don't want to spend all that time. Exactly. And that's a waste of time.
I need to be thinking about my engineering.
Exactly.
So AI takes away that burden from me.
Exactly. I think that's the beauty of AI. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So it's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool. Yeah.
Maybe the time will come when it will begin to actually do real engineering stuff, like design the protection system. I don't know, but we will see. So it's good. Last but not least, future prospects. Because apart from maybe enjoying where you are and doing well where you are, you're probably thinking about the future. What prospects do you think your current pathway has given you access to? 30 seconds.
Okay. So personally, I've always been drawn to startups and building solutions for problems that I'm personally excited about. And I think that with tech and with the knowledge of tech, with my experience and the network that I have, it makes it much easier to go into that space. Because for non-technical founders, you might see the problem, you might envision a solution, but you're not quite sure about, how do I go build this thing?
Yeah.
And for technical founders, there's a bit of that advantage where it's like,
How many other companies have offered you jobs since you joined Google?
How many companies have tried to offer me jobs, but we never got past the question of compensation? Yes, that's how good Google pays. God, at least a dozen. So how many have actually come with offers? 2 or 3 thereabouts. But certainly there's a lot reaching out. Almost every week you have someone trying to do that.
It's a sign that you are useful. You have people finding you without you applying.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
For me, I think I've already mentioned it, right? I think there are 3 or 4 pathways that I can take after this. And I think that's good. I like the idea of having options.
Yeah.
So I'm
you negotiate from a position of power.
Yes.
You have more. Yeah.
Yes, I have my first choice. I have my second choice. I have my third choice.
Yeah.
And I think in the UK, like I said, there's a lot of energy consultancy companies that have come up in the past few years. That's because the UK is, I think, leading the world in renewable energy connection. We call it clean energy or sustainable energy, wind and things like that. So we have lots of interconnection requests. We have many wind farms and many solar farms and many battery sites, energy storage facilities implanted all around. Exactly, because of the lot of wind in Scotland.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of need for consultancy companies, So I think that's good. So any regrets?
Absolutely not.
Can't imagine
you?
any regrets. None whatsoever.
Absolutely.
I would have regretted refusing the opportunity.
Yeah.
And staying where I was.
Yeah. Yandex.
and Joshua, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So let us know in the comment section who won.
Tech. Vote tech.
PhD. Vote a PhD, okay? AI is coming for tech jobs. Believe me. All right. Have a good day. Bye.